The soil was barely settled on their graves when my brother, Victor, aggressively confronted me. The air was heavy with the scent of lilies and damp earth. "Execute the document," he commanded, holding out the folded quit-claim deed my entitlement to the inheritance. His tone was definitive, a cold pronouncement. Before I could object, my wife Lena positioned herself beside him, her hand proprietarily resting on his arm. "I'm relocating for your alpha brother anyway," she declared, without a trace of compunction. "It is prudent to sign now." She was self-satisfied. He was assured, a perfectly arranged, odious alliance. I offered no immediate response, instead filing away the shared smirk and the disconcerting proximity of the two figures. The reading of the will necessitated our move indoors, and in that transition the nature of the conflict fundamentally shifted. Infidelity was a personal wound. Collusion over my parents' last wishes constituted a calculated breach. They settled at the long oak table like a regal pair. I sat opposite them, detached. I revisited Lena's graveside utterance, the casual deployment of Alpha, Victor's intimate gesture understanding. This scheme was not abrupt but covertly engineered. I noted the avarice in her gaze when the barrister referenced the estate. For her, the objective was sheer extraction. I regulated my respiration, allowing them to presume my silence stemmed from crippling shock. In reality, it was generating a surgical precision. I withheld my signature on the deed. Instead, I gave a slow, deliberate nod and requested a brief period for consideration. I construed this as timidity. I intended it as the initiation of a countdown, the contingency plan. That evening, I accessed my father's study. I located the will's duplicate, the safe combination he'd entrusted to me just in case, and within the safe, 2 discrete leather notebooks. My father's entries chronicled dates, financial irregularities, and his growing suspicion regarding Victor's coercive maneuvers. My mother's journal was starker. "Ensure his protection from his brother," she advised. The beneficiary was clearly myself. In the ensuing days, I forensically examined bank transfers, property deeds, and corporate records. Victor's involvement, invariably intertwined with Lena, we formed a palpable pattern of deceit. The lawyer contacted me twice. I maintained that I was judiciously weighing my choices. They believed I was simply procrastinating. I was meticulously collating evidence. Every courteous smile from Lena was now viewed as a staged performance, every casual remark from Victor as calculated inducement. I permitted them to believe I was thoroughly compromised. I was, in fact, composing the inevitable conclusion. The will's unanticipated contingency clause was deliberately obscured, nested deep within the document. My father had anticipated the familial rupture, a condition stipulating that if either primary heir or as an actor engaged in collusion against the other, the entirety of the estate would default to a trust administered solely by me. The requirement for invocation was merely demonstrable intent. I possessed far more: their graveside arrogance and the parental documentation. The execution. I presented myself at the barrister's office ahead of the final meeting. Lena and Victor entered shortly after, their confidence bordering on arrogance. I silently pushed the leather notebooks across the table toward the legal counsel. "Incorporate these into the record." Lena instinctively reached for them. I made no move to stop her. She read the first page of my mother's entries and instantly froze. Victor's complexion turned to ash. I uttered nothing. Silence sufficed. The barrister began the precise, measured recitation of the collusion clause. Then, he raised his eyes to meet mine. "Do you wish to invoke this provision?" I held my gaze steady, omitting them entirely from my focus. "Affirmative." Their voices immediately dissolved into a cacophony of frantic denials, feeble excuses, and mutual I maintained my attention on the barrister. "Execute the mandate," I ordered. Their collective power evaporated in an instant, replaced by the profound horror of total financial ruin. I rose and buttoned my jacket. "You coveted what was never truly yours," I stated quietly. "Consequently, neither of you retains any claim." I abandoned them there, two predators utterly ensnared in their own meticulously set trap, left grasping for equilibrium as their foundation dissolved. The trust documentation arrived the following week, confirming the entire estate was consolidated under my control. I experienced no sense of triumph, only a definitive stillness. Their absence is now infinitely more palpable and clean than their presence ever was. They may have viewed themselves as the dominant forces, but wolves who turn on their own are exiled, not rulers. I have achieved my peace, and I never look back.